61 is the last year the financial system works in your favor. After that, the rules start working against you. And most people don't find out until tens of thousands of dollars are already gone. So in this video, I'm going to show you what actually changes once you cross 61. The hidden aging patterns Stanford discovered that will completely change how long you plan to work, and the simple 4-step plan you can use to retire safely before your options start disappearing. To start, I need to show you how 61 may be your last year of freedom, but most people don't realize it until they're already 63. So most people spend years counting down to 59 and a half, 62, or 65. These birthdays get all the attention because a penalty goes away or a benefit kicks in. But 61 isn't a milestone, it's a deadline. Think of it as the final boarding call before the doors lock. It's the last year before you're eligible for Social Security, so you haven't yet entered the constant tug of war over when to claim and how that choice affects the rest of your retirement. And you're still outside the Medicare look-back window, which means this year's income won't come back to haunt you with higher premiums. In other words, 61 is the last year you get to shape your retirement before the government starts shaping it for you. But focusing too much on what comes after 61 can make you overlook one of the most valuable tax windows you'll ever have. The moment your paycheck disappears, your income may be the lowest it's been in 40 years. And this is where most retirees assume they're finally getting a break on their taxes. But that lower tax bracket isn't just a break. It's an invitation to lock in tens of thousands of dollars in tax savings. You can convert taxable dollars into tax-free ones while rates are unusually low. You can realize capital gains at a 0% federal tax rate if your income stays below certain thresholds. You can qualify for health insurance subsidies worth as much as $20,000 per year. And ignoring these opportunities is letting one of retirement's most valuable tax windows quietly expire. But the thing is, these opportunities are all fighting over the same limited space. Think about them like packing luggage into the back of your car. Pack one thing carelessly and suddenly nothing else fits. If you convert too much money into Roth, it could push you out of the 0% capital gains bracket. Harvest too much in gains and you could wipe out your health insurance subsidy. Every decision changes the math for the next one, which means every strategy has to work together. And that coordination takes time. If you show up at 63 and try to cram years of planning into a few months, you can set off a cascade of tax consequences that closes every other opportunity behind it. So let me walk you through exactly what changes after 61 so you know how to protect your savings. So 62 is your first year of Social Security eligibility, and for many people, pension decisions arrive. And after decades of saving, finally getting access to your money might feel like the finish line. But in reality, it's actually the starting line for a completely different set of decisions. Before 62, income planning is pretty straightforward. You pick where you want to withdraw from and fill in any extra room with Roth conversions. But at 62, questions start creeping up in the back of your mind. Should I claim Social Security now or should I wait? And if I claim now, do I lose valuable health insurance subsidies? If I wait, where does the income come from? Should I take the pension monthly or as a lump sum? Each decision locks in consequences that can last the rest of your life. And getting them wrong can cost you tens of thousands in lost subsidies, extra taxes, or benefits you'll never get back. Now at 63, a hidden rule comes into play, which is the Medicare IRMA look-back window. IRMA is a penalty that increases your Medicare premiums if you show too much income. And the reason this comes into play at 63, not at 65 when Medicare actually starts, is because Medicare is always looking in the rearview mirror. Your income at 63 determines your premiums at 65. Your income at 64 determines your premiums at 66, and so on. And here's what catches many retirees completely off guard. Your Medicare income is a completely different income than your taxable income. It counts everything. Work income, withdrawals, Roth conversions, Social Security, capital gains, they all pile on top of each other. And on top of this, the standard deduction doesn't apply. So the exact same strategy that made sense at 61 can come with a shadow cost that makes it a mistake at 63. But the good news is, once you understand the timing, everything else gets easier. So let me show you exactly how you can retire at 61 and protect your savings using Steve as an example. When he hit 60, it felt like someone had flipped a switch. His energy just vanished. Steve thought he was just burnt out, but he wasn't. He was experiencing something researchers now believe happens to almost everyone around age 60. Stanford Medicine recently released a study. There are two periods where we age rapidly, around 44 and 60. And at 60, the study found that the risk for Alzheimer's and cardiovascular disease rise sharply, compared with a gradual increase in risk for those under 60. So Steve wasn't imagining it. He was feeling a real biological change that Stanford Medicine found happens to almost everyone at 60. So the same time your body starts asking you to slow down is the same time the financial system gives you one last opportunity to get ahead. But the thing is, Steve had always planned to work till 65, and he didn't know if retiring 4 years earlier was actually possible without putting his future at risk. So let me show you the exact 4-step plan we used to get him out safely at 61 while he still had his health and energy. Step 1 is health insurance. And for most people, it's the biggest barrier between them and retiring at 61. Retiring before Medicare means either COBRA or a company-sponsored pre-65 plan, or you need to go to the marketplace. And the decision comes down to two factors. First are your needs. If you have a specific doctor or hospital you need access to, it may be covered under one plan and not on another. So not all plans or carriers are created equal. And if COBRA is more expensive, but it's the only way to get the coverage you want, then it's worth it. Second is pricing. If COBRA and the marketplace both cover your doctors, just pick the cheaper one. The hard part is actually figuring out what each option would actually cost you. And it can get complicated, so make sure to talk to your health insurance broker. But here's the simplest way to think about it. If you expect to have low income to start retirement, whether that's from low expenses or from a lot of tax flexibility, you may qualify for a subsidy or a tax credit towards your health insurance. This can reduce costs by $15,000 or $20,000 a year for a couple in their 60s. But if you expect higher income, then COBRA or a company-sponsored pre-65 plan often makes more sense. Your doctors are already covered, your plan stays exactly as it is, and you're not aggressively reducing your income for a tax credit just to keep costs down. Then, once you have this in place, it ties directly into step 2, which is Roth conversions. When your paycheck stops and you have a drop in income, it opens up the golden zone for Roth conversions. But the thing is, you can't just blindly start piling money into Roth accounts, because converting too much can increase the cost of your health insurance. So we need a plan to balance the two. And most people's first instinct is to start pulling money from retirement accounts now that they can finally access them. But the best strategy at this stage is actually to do the opposite. If you live off your taxable brokerage account instead, you only pay taxes on the gains, not the full withdrawal like you would with a retirement account. So because only part of that withdrawal counts, your income stays low. And this protects your health insurance subsidy and leaves more room for Roth conversions. So living off your taxable account can accomplish 3 things at once. It can cover expenses, lower your health insurance costs, and help protect you from higher taxes when RMDs force money out later. Then step 3 is your withdrawal strategy. Most people aren't retiring at 61 to sit in a rocking chair watching the news. Your 60s are your most active phase of retirement. So ideally, we want to be able to withdraw as much as possible during this phase without putting you at risk of running out of money. And doing this comes down to answering 2 questions. First, how willing are you to cut back on spending if the market were to drop? If you're comfortable delaying a trip or a big purchase if the market falls, then you can safely start retirement by pulling a bigger amount from your portfolio. Second isn't how willing you are to cut back, but how able you are. If half of your spending is discretionary, like travel or fun purchases, then delaying something a year isn't a big deal. But if 90% is fixed expenses like a mortgage and utilities, then cutting back might mean refinancing your home, which is a completely different story. So when you determine your withdrawal rate, you need to answer both questions because willing and able aren't the same thing. Now, step 4 is your investment strategy. The gap between retirement and when guaranteed income like Social Security or a pension kicks in is the riskiest time because you're entirely dependent on your portfolio. If the market crashes and you have to sell low, it can take years to recover the losses. But on the other side, retiring at 61 means your portfolio needs to support you for a long time. So you can't just play it safe. Your money needs to keep growing. So to balance this, think about your investment strategy as a barbell. On one end, you have very safe investments. This is the money you plan to spend in the next few years, and you want to keep this away from any risk of a market crash. On the other end are your growth investments. This is your long-term money. You don't plan to touch it until the back half of retirement. So time is on your side here, and you can afford to ride out drops and let it keep compounding. But what makes this structure so powerful is that it doesn't just cover the math. When the market crashes, seeing that big chunk of stable money makes it easier to keep spending and enjoying retirement. And when the market surges, seeing money invested for growth helps you avoid feeling like you're missing out. So doing this covers the emotional side too, which during a big life shift like this can matter just as much. But even with the perfect plan to retire at 61, most retirees still hesitate. And it's because with everything going on in the world, they feel like 2026 is the worst time in history to retire. So for the exact 4-step plan anyone can use to retire safely in 2026, check out this next video.